Hello everybody and welcome to the Office 365 Labs series. As you may know, this is already the 6th webcast from a series of 8 in total that we delivered during this month. And today, as you may know from the title, and now I already see that I have a typo in my slides. I'm sorry for that. It's of course Office 365 Labs, not Office 254. Sorry for that. However, as you may know, today we will focus on ADFS. And to be sincere, I waited for this webcast already from the start because this is one of my favorite topics, and I am really glad that I would be able today to deliver this webcast to you. But before we get started, I would also briefly like to introduce your presenters. So it's first me, it's Dan. If you joined the other sessions, you already heard me speaking. Maybe you already got board. However, I am a Microsoft partner technical consultant working with our customers and helping them to deliver to their end customers our cloud services. We help to design solutions and so on. And from a technical point of view, my main focus is cloud identity, which includes normally Azure AD Connect, ADFS, and all the topics that are related in some way to Azure Active Directory. But since this session will be fairly long and very rich in content, I also brought a colleague of mine with me today. And since we're gonna look also into some troubleshooting scenarios, I thought of bringing somebody that is actually working in our support team and is doing a great job there, and maybe she will be able to share some of her support experience with us today, but I would like to let my colleague introduce herself.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan. Hello, everybody. My name is Doriana. I am, as Dan said, a cloud identity support engineer. I have been working with Microsoft for 1.5 years. My main focus is directory synchronization. So I work a lot with Azure Active Directory Connect and all sorts of synchronization scenarios, but also authentication. Not only Azure Active Directory authentication, but also authentication through Active Directory Federation services. And yes, today I will present some troubleshooting guidance for you to have in handy when encountering an issue when logging into Office 365 with ADFS.
Okay, thank you very much, Doriana. And before we get started, only very few remarks on our agenda for today. So we'll look into ADFS and the SAML tokens, because as we know, ADFS is using this SAML authentication protocol. We will also look into ADFS certificates, because this is a very important part. Then we will also try to see exactly how we can use ADFS to track down external IP addresses that different devices used in order to connect to our Office 365 services, and we will also relate this to a specific scenario that I encountered when I working with a customer regarding on this type of ADFS authentication. And hopefully we will still have enough time, and we will look also a little bit into a new feature in Azure AD, which is pair up MFA, which is very interesting, and hope we will be able to see it today. If you joined all the other sessions, you may know in all webcasts from this Office 365 Lab series, we delivered all content using only live demos. So this is also what we will do today. So this is basically the last slide that I will use. I will surely use also 2 slides when we will wrap up this webcast. But for now, we will simply take over and show you directly how can you get things done, how can you troubleshoot, how can you do different configurations to your ADFS infrastructure and so on. And to start off, I would then kindly ask Doriana if you could share your desktop and let's get started.
Yes, Dan, let's get started. So I will share my desktop really quick.
I will let you know once we can see it.
Okay.
So it's still loading right now, but I think in a few seconds we should be able to see your screen. So it's still loading.
Okay.
And yes, I think we should all be able to see your screen.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much then for your feedback.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we are talking about Active Directory synchronization and authentication to Office 365 through ADFS. If we set directory synchronization with Azure Active Directory Connect, in order to synchronize identities from our local Active Directory to Office 365, but still we would like that our users to be able to log into Office 365 with their on-premises credentials without having to enter any other username or passwords when connecting to our services. In this case, we would configure single sign-on. And in order for single sign-on to work, we would have to establish a trust between our on-premises environment and Office 365. In this case, the Active Directory Federation Services will be a security token service, and Office 365 will be the relying party. Office 365 is expecting for some information from the ADFS that would give him the opportunity to successfully log in users coming from our local Active Directory to Office 365. This information, actually there are 2 pieces of information very, very important. One is the user principal name. 2 is the immutable ID. This will be we will find this in a token which will be issued by the security token service by our ADFS to Office 365. And to have a quick look about what I was talking about, I will share with you my ADFS management console in my environment, and I already have built up a trust with Office 365 in my ADFS. And if I go on the right pane to edit claim rules, I will find the 2 claims that I was talking about, UPN and immutable ID. Here we have the first one. This is the UPN, okay? And then...
So this claim rule is basically here in order to make sure that the correct user principal name is written down into the SAML token. Is this correct?
Exactly. If Office 365 won't receive the UPN that it knows that the user has, then the user won't be able to authenticate. And it's the same thing with the immutable ID. And here it is. And as you all know, the immutable ID is actually the object GUID of the on-premises object. If the synchronization is not working as expected, and these information are not delivered to Office 365 as Office 365 expects to, the authentication will fail, as Dan also said. But let's do a quick login to Office 365. For the purpose of this webcast, I have altered the configuration of my environment in order to be able to reproduce and then troubleshoot an issue that I have very commonly seen with my customers. So I will go to the portal.office.com that we all know. Okay, it's thinking a bit about it. And I have also pre-populated a user from my Active Directory that is already federated. I click on the user. Now I'm getting redirected to my STS. Okay, let me give the password really quick. And I have a problem, which says, sorry, but we're having trouble signing in. We received a bad request. But if we look at the bottom of this page, we receive some additional technical information, which is actually really, really good. One, this is a correlation ID and the timestamp. For me, as a support engineer, these two pieces of information are very important to further troubleshoot this if I need to access our backend servers. But then we have another message that says that the requested federation realm object, this one, does not exist. In order to be able to further interpret this error message, what I usually do is I take a fiddler trace. A fiddler, here it is a web debugging proxy which logs all HTTP and HTTPS traffic between the computer and the internet. So now, to take a trace, first of all, I close this window really quick. Go ahead and open another one just to be able to reproduce the issue again. Cool. And now I go to Fiddler. Very important when we start taking a Fiddler trace to figure out the traffic that happens between our machine and Office 365, I'd have to decrypt HTTPS traffic. So I go to Tools, Fiddler Options, decrypt HTTPS traffic. I click on OK. And then let's also start the capture. Okay, there we go. We started to capture traffic. I go back to my Internet Explorer page. I go to the portal. I click on my user. I'm getting redirected. And now I got the error again, but now I will have more information into the fiddler trace. So, if we look, we went first to portal.office.com, which redirects us to login.microsoftonline.com with W sign in. Then I get to click on the user, then it happens the user realm, which says that the user Annie at sub2 a-domain.msftonlinereport.com wants to log in. I get redirected to my ADFS. Until now, everything is looking pretty good. Yeah, we have a 200 OK. And right at the end here, I receive the token that I was talking about from our ADFS to login.microsoftonline.com. In order to be able to get a look into the token and see actually what it contains, we can go on the upper side of the Fiddler to Web Forms. And here I have the body and the W result. If I copy the text that I have here and paste it into a notepad.
In the meantime, just for clarification, I would like to add something. So basically, you would find always the SAML token in the frame that has that login.srf.
Exactly.
And it could be, of course, also that you run on the computer also other programs that that connect to the internet, and in that case, for example, your fiddler trace will be will have surely a lot of frames, but you should always look for the SAML token for that frame that contains that login.srf. That is the very, very important one.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Dan. So I go to my notepad, I paste what I have copied from there, and what I would do is I'll save this document as token.xml. Now let's see what it actually contains. Okay. So, very sorry for that. Okay. There we go. Here it is. Okay, so I was talking about the two very important claims that the token should contain. One would be the UPN, right, with what we have seen when entering the username, and the other would be the immutable ID. In order to eliminate the fact that this might not be the right ones, what I usually do, I go into my directory synchronization machine. I already have the synchronization service manager open with Azure Active Directory Connect. I go to Metaverse Search, and here I have already searched for my user. And if I go to search, I'll receive some results. I'll go to my user, and these are the attributes that are contained into the metaverse. What I am actually mostly interested in is the Azure Active Directory connector, the information that will be exported from the metaverse to Office 365. And if I double click on it, I see that this is the right UPN, and also that the source anchor is NBP1V. And if I remember correctly, it's the same information that I have in the token. Okay, so UPN and immutable ID are correct.
Sorry, here maybe from experience I know maybe there is something else that we will have to clarify. So this immutable ID has different names, let's say. In the on-premises Active Directory, it's basically the object GUID.
Yes.
In Azure AD Connect, it's called Source Anchor, and in Azure AD, it's called Immutable ID. So there are three different names that basically are or stand for the exact same thing.
Exactly. You are right, Dan. This is it. You are very right. Okay, so now that we have cleared that also, let's see what exactly is wrong with our authentication. If I go back to the error, we see that we get here a message that says that a requested Federation realm object does not exist. So in this case, I would open Windows Azure Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, or just PowerShell itself, and let's verify the Federation. So let me just copy quickly a command. It's the get MSOL Federation property and the domain name. I pressed on enter, and let's see what we are getting. We are getting a very, very long output, but which is shared between two sections. We have one section in which the source is ADFS server with all the configuration of the ADFS server that for Federation is important, and also the other source, which is Microsoft Office 365. Now, in order for authentication to work as expected and to be successful, in the case we have one federated domain in our Office 365 environment, these two sections here, so the information that these two sections contain, must be similar, identical. So let's go to one very important parameter here, which is the Federation Service Identifier. This is actually the Federation entity that issues the security token. So if I see on my ADFS server, we have the HTTP, STS, and then a long domain name /ADFS/services/trust. If I look on the Office 365 side, for the Federation Service Identifier, actually, we can see that we have something different. We have the domain of the federated domain of the user that I'm trying to log into. So here we might have discovered the issue. These two Federation Service Identifiers do not match. In order to fix this manually, we can run a command, which is the following. Okay. Nope, this is not it. Just a second. It's a long one, this one, and it's taking a bit some time. Okay. What exactly? Let me just run this once again.
I think there's a space.
Yes, you are right. There's a space and the dash. Thank you.
Beginning.
Yeah, we have to make sure that everything is written correctly as expected, not to get any errors. Okay, now it seems that command ran successfully, and we can verify again the MSOL Federation property. So again, get MSOL Federation property. I press on enter, and now I have Federation Service Identifier, which I would like to show you something else. This can be found into the ADFS properties. So if I click on ADFS and go to Edit Federation Service Properties, I find the Federation Service name right here. And this is the and also the Federation Service Identifier. This is the value that I get with the MSOL Federation property. And if I go back, I see that I have changed also the Federation Service Identifier on the Office 365 side. So what I have to do now is to try to log in again. So let's open maybe another in private session. I go to the portal. Okay. Now I'm getting redirected, and let's see. Okay. Sorry. Okay, now it's looking better. It's working. I'm on office.com, and here I'm on the Office 365 profile of my user, which for the moment is not licensed. So, very important, when we have one federated domain in our Office 365 environment, what we need to make sure is that the information from the two sources, ADFS and Office 365, will match. Okay. For example, if I would like to federate two domains, there would be a slightly difference. And with this, maybe Dan will help us with to share his screen and also run a test.
Of course, I will do that. Let me, okay, present desktop. Okay, I should be presenting in a few seconds. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Doriana, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So in my case, let's also run the same commandlet to see exactly what are the ADFS properties. Oh, sorry, this is not the commandlet I wanted to run right now. It's second. Okay, this is the one. Okay, so get MSL federation property in order to check exactly the properties of the federation that we have set up between my local Active Directory and Office 365. And as it was the case when my colleague did exactly the same thing, we have first some entries for the ADFS server, and we see here the federation service identifier, which is set, of course, to my federation service and to this specific URL. So it's sts.dampatrashku.com/ADFS services trust and so on. And if we go further and look at the second part, which is specific for the Office 365 part, we can see that basically my federation service identifier is under the form domain, danpatrashku.com.adfs services trust and so on. So basically you would say, okay, but it was exactly the same when Doriana did the demo and she had an error for her users. And the answer is yes, it was basically the same, but the main difference is here, when I used the commandlet convert MSOL domain to federated. Let's fire up my domains first. Okay, so we can see that this domain here is federated, so the first one. And when I ran this commandlet to convert this domain to federated, which is convert MSOL domain to federated, I also used a switch at the end of the command that was support multiple domain. And in that case, what happens is that the ADFS is set up in that way that you can also federate other domains. For example, I could also federate this domain here right now. But in order to resolve this issue, because if it stays the same, let's say, with the federation service identifier, I would still have the problem. But when I use this switch support multiple domains, what happens is that on my relying party trust, there is automatically a third claim rule added. And as you remember, Doriana had only 2 claim rules. Since I used that switch, I have 3 claim rules. And this third claim rule, basically what it does, it takes the information that you have in that specific domain and it constructs a federation service identifier that is also written down in that token, and that is constant or is exactly the same as this one. So basically this is why when you plan to set up ADFS, you should really think ahead. Will I federate only one domain, or will I federate even a second domain or a third domain and so on? Because if I want to federate several domains, it is very, very important to use that switch at the end, which is support multiple domains. And if I would like, for example, to convert this domain right now, it would look something like convert MSOL domain Okay, then domain name this one, and then at the end, as I told you, support multiple domain switch. And okay, no, multi, and now it will take support multiple domain. This is the switch. So very important if you want to federate several domains is to use also for the first domain that you federate to use this switch. It is very, very, very important. And now basically what will happen is that also my second domain will also get a federated domain. And then also users that have a UPN that contains this this type of domain in their user principal name, they will also be able to use single sign-on. Once again, very important if you plan to use several domains with ADFS, when you federate the first one, it's really important to include this switch here, because otherwise you will run into the problem that you won't be able to save or to federate any other domains. And just to make a final check, let's run a get MSOL domain again, and we can see now this domain is also set to federated. So in my case it worked. But since, for example, and I think you can take over, Doriana, and show what would happen if you try right now to federate a second domain without using that switch when you federated the first domain.
Yes, sure. Let me take over. Present. Okay, please let me know when you can see my screen then. How does it look like? Okay, I believe Dan can see my screen and everybody
yes,
can see my screen.
I was speaking here, but I was on mute. I forgot that I put myself on mute.
Okay, cool, no worries. Okay, so if I run this exact get dash MSOL domain, cool. I see I have only one federated domain, which is the sub2 one. So if I would like to federate my other domain, and I run the convert dash MSOL domain to federated. Let me just domain name and let me quick copy this one and paste. And I use the support multiple domain switch because this should work, right? And I get the error that says that the switch parameter support multiple domain is not supported. And this is exactly why what Dan was saying, that if I have federated my sub2 domain and did not use the support multiple domain switch, when I want to federate the sub1 as well, I will get into trouble. So I will get into this error. And in order to fix this, I would have to change the authentication policy on the sub2 domain and put it unmanaged like the other ones. Then I'd have to refederate it again, but this time using the support multiple domain switch so that I would be able later to federate the sub1 domain as well. Okay, if we go further, for a successful federation between Azure Active Directory and Active Directory Federation Services, there is another aspect that we have to take care of, and this is the certificates. The certificates that are used by ADFS to sign the security tokens to Azure AD. And exactly what I was saying, the token signing certificate from the two sources, ADFS and Office 365, must be the same. We have to have the same serial number, the same day when they got created, the 19th of September, the same day when they expire, the 19th of September 2017, and the thumbprint. Usually, Office 365 pulls the certificate from the ADFS server via the public metadata endpoint if we have made this publicly available, so if we could access this from outside our network. But I was talking here about token signing certificate. What exactly is a token signing certificate? This is the certificate that is used to sign the token that is sent to the relying party to prove that indeed the token came from the ADFS. And if I would look into my environment on my ADFS console, if I go to certificates, I have service communication certificate, I have token decrypting, token signing. For the federation to be successful, I am mostly interested in the token signing certificate. And of course, they also token decrypting, because these are normally self-signed certificates. These are good for 1 year, as you can see, and they are dated from the time when the primary ADFS server was installed. And when these certificates are ready to expire, the Office 365 portal would let us know. Let me just show you how this would look like. In the Office 365 portal, we would get a notification that says that one of your on-premises federation service certificates is expiring, and failure to renew the certificate and update trust properties within a number of days will result in a loss of access to Office 365 services for all users. This might come up also in an email that some of you might be already familiar with. It's the same notification that you get in the portal, you get in the form of an email. But how do we know if our token signing and token decrypting are really self-signed, and we won't have a problem for the Office 365 side to be updated with the new certificates if this will be created? So how we can check that? I'll go back to my PowerShell and I'll run the get ADFS properties command. And here I'll get again a block of text. And to see if my certificates are will be automatically renewed or not, I have a parameter that I have to check, and this is the auto certificate rollover, which in my case is set on true. If it is set on true, as I said, the certificates will be configured and renewed in ADFS automatically. We do not have to do anything, but just to make sure that they will be also updated into Office 365. Also, we have here some other parameters which are of interest in this topic, which is first this certificate critical threshold, which is set on 2, which means that these are the days prior to expiry of the certificate before a new certificate is generated and promoted. Then, certificate duration. As I said, this should last a year, so 365 days, 365 days. Then we have a certificate generation threshold, which is or lists us the days before expiration of the current primary certificate, when a new certificate will be generated. Then we have the certificate promotion threshold, which shows us after how many days the newly generated certificate, which is set on secondary, will be set as primary. And this is 5. But to give you a closer approach to this, let's take my example of my certificate. I have done a nice calendar photo here. So I see that my token signing and token decrypting will expire on 2017 on September 19th. Here is the 19th of September marked with red. The new certificate will be generated 20 days before the current primary certificate is supposed to expire. This means that the new certificate is marked in green and will be generated on the 30th of August 2017 and will remain as secondary certificate. With 5 days after the new certificate was generated, this will be promoted to primary. This means the 4th of September. So, for example, if, and what the portal, the Office 365 portal actually shows us is the number of days when the second certificate, the one that got created on the 30th of August, will be promoted from secondary to primary. So, if I would receive on the 24th of August a notification on the portal, or on the 24th of August, I notice that I got an email from Office 365, this should be informing me that in 10 days, the services will stop. Another very nice thing to check, and this would be my last point, was that in the token the certificates appear. So the certificate that the Office 365 is pulling from the metadata appears also in the token. So if I go back to my token, right at the bottom I have the X509 certificate. I have copied the text into a notepad, and if I save this into certificates.cer, and if I check really quick how this looks like, I see the certificate that Office 365 has from my side. If I go to details, I go to thumbprint, and now we are able to make also a comparison with the information that I have on the ADFS server. And here it is. This is my thumbprint. So, to conclude, in order for an SSO experience to be successful, we have to have trust between ADFS and Office 365, in which Federation Service Identifier has to match on both sides. If we have only one federated domain, we have to have a valid UPN and immutable ID, and we have to have valid certificates. And with this, I think we can conclude my side of the story, of the troubleshooting part, and I'll give then the stage to you, Dan.
Yes, I will present my screen, and in the meantime, can you maybe show us again, however, where you can get the data for the certificate from the SAML token, because somebody from the audience want to see this again, since it was too quick, and maybe you can select that text.
here is my token. Yes. And if
One
I
second,
scroll,
because I think we have a small delay.
okay.
Okay,
If
okay,
I
right
scroll
now.
right at the bottom of the token, I have here the X509 data and X509 certificate. And I copied this whole information from here into a notepad. And
Okay, I think
I
it's okay.
copied
They
here.
just
Yes,
wanted to see exactly where did you find this
exactly.
information in the
Here
SAML
it is.
token.
Here it
So
is.
this is okay. Good, great. Thank you very much. Now I will present my screen. Just one second. Okay. So and in the meantime, maybe just also to conclude a little bit the part about certificates, the whole idea about this notification that you may see in your Office 365 admin center is that if you know or if you check running get ADFS properties that that information auto certificate rollover is set to true. Get ADFS properties. No, okay. Then you as an admin basically don't have to do anything because all the process will be really automatic, and the new certificate will be generated. Then it will be promoted as primary, and if your federation service is also available from outside, so if it is published through an web application proxy server, then Office 365 will take this information directly and will know exactly that you have changed your certificate. However, as an admin, it may be good, let's say, when you notice this type of information in the admin center, that you can check if the new certificate was generated, if the new certificate was then promoted as the primary certificate, and so on, just to make sure that everything is okay. But it should all go really automatically, so you shouldn't be needed to perform any type of action within this process. If you notice that something might be going wrong and the new certificate is not generated or is not promoted to primary, or that the new certificate is not known by Office 365, then you can, however, also try to run this update MSL federated domain, and in that case Office 365 will know about the new certificate. But again, and the last time, the whole process should be really automatic, and you as an admin should only keep an eye of it, so that you make sure that everything is going wrong, everything is going right. Sorry, of course we don't want that things go wrong with ADFS, because it's a nightmare. No user would be then able to log into Office 365 services. But with this being said, I would like to jump to a new part, and this is let's say not that deep into troubleshooting, but more in the aspect that I'm taking care of as consultant, and this is for example, in very often I receive the question, how can we track down the external IP addresses of devices, or what type of devices do access our Office 365 services? And in this case, we can do that using the event viewer, and I will try to show you how some of these things should work. But in order to do that, let's I use project my screen. Sorry, I think no, it's the incorrect password, because this is not my phone directly, and I think I should try to show this another way. So what I will do right now, you won't be able to see my phone, but what I will do right now, I will use my phone in order to try to log into Office 365 using ADFS. And just 1 second. And I would use a device here. And okay, now I'm asked for my password. Because, of course, if I'm logging to Office 365 from a device, I will go through my web application proxy server, so I will be asked about my password, since the request is not coming from internally. And I will sign in right now to Office 365, and right now the login was successful. Okay, and let's then here do a quick refresh. Here. Okay. Just 1 second. Okay, so we did a refresh. Now, just as a short information, let's also open a notepad. The user I used in order to sign into Office 365 from my phone right now was this one. Now, okay. We have here a lot of event logs, and it might be difficult to search exactly for the event log that shows us maybe the IP address of the device that this user used in order to log into Office 365 services using a certain device. But in this case, for example, we can use here the find feature and in event viewer, and let's, for example, put the some account name. And in this case, I would be able to see exactly just one thing. I'm sure that I'm on the first event here. And now with find, I would be able to find next. And here I see a certain event, which is 501. And something is clearly about this user ID. But what we will look for in this case, we will look for an event that is 403. Just 1 second. Here, maybe this one. And in this event 403, we are able to see a lot of very, very important information. Here we won't be able to see the exact IP of the device, but we will be instead able to see exactly what device this was. And in this case, of course, this is firstly, it shows us basically a lot of things, but always at the third place here, it is the device that I used in order to sign in to Office 365. And in this case, I know that this specific user tried to sign in from Lumia 950. So this is a very, very important first information that we can take from ADFS side. Now, the second information is the external IP address. And for the external IP address, we'll have to look for the event ID 410. And in this event ID, we see this XMS forwarded client IP address. And this is the external IP address of the device that used of the device that was used in order to sign into Office 365 services by the user that I have specified here. So in this case, we have the external IP address, and we have the exact information about what device this user used in order to log into Office 365. The other question would be, okay, but why would this information be important? And the answer is because there are a lot of scenarios when users use some devices to connect to certain services, but then they acquire a new device, they forget about the old device, then at a certain point, maybe also in AD password gets changed, and the old device is not updated with the new value, and then you would see that maybe at some point one of the services will try to connect and will fail because it uses already wrong credentials, and you might see that the user is locked out from Active Directory based on the group policy of information that you have set up exactly on how many bad authentication attempts a certain user should be blocked. And when a user is locked from AD, that is a fairly big problem. And I would certainly like to show you also this example from a practical point of view, but very important before we do that, because the problem was if you worked with ADFS also before Windows Server 2012 R2, then you know that there was a fairly big problem, because maybe if somebody, let's say, entered a wrong password on a device 5 times, the account got locked out on the local Active Directory, which is bad, because this means that that specific user is also not able to log into his computer anymore, and so on. But starting with ADFS 2012 R2, we have a feature that is called Extranet lockout, and this is a very, very important feature. You see, in my case, it is set to true. By default, it's set to false. But with set ADFS properties, you can set it to true, and you can define also a threshold of 3. And for example, if in my local Active Directory I have defined a policy that after 5 authentication attempts, a user should be locked from the Active Directory, in this Extranet lockout threshold, I define this to 3. And what this will trigger, it will lock that user on the web application server side, but not in the local Active Directory. So this means that if a certain device or user tries to authenticate 3 times to Office 365 and it does not work, then he will be locked out on the web application proxy server, but he will still be able to log in to his computer, for example, in his office, and so on. And this is a very, very important thing. And we have also an Extranet observation window, and this time interval defines exactly for how long this user should be locked out on the web application proxy side. And in my case, it is half an hour. So after half an hour, the user should be, however, able to log in to Office 365 again. And why I wanted to show you this, because if you set this to true, and for example, right now I will use my device in order to try to log in again with the same user to Office 365 services, but in this case I will provide 4 times a wrong password, so that we can afterwards check exactly what we have in the event viewer. So the first time, the second time, and now the third time, and the fourth time. And now let's get back to the event viewer. Let's close this. Let's close this exact event, and let's do a refresh here. And once again, we know exactly which user had this problem. But however, if we use this type of feature, always when an account gets locked out, you will see on the ADFS server this event ID 516. And in this case, you can see, for example, the username. You can see again the client IP. So this is the IP that I used, and how many times I entered a wrong credential, and exactly on what date this was done the last time. And now you can see, for example, that we have here also an activity ID. And what I will do right now, because the scenario is that I also want to find out exactly what device is causing this type of lockout. And in this case, I can take the activity ID from this event 516, so it's always 516 when this feature is activated and an account gets locked out. We'll also go and use this find feature in event viewer and paste here the event ID, or sorry, the activity ID, and maybe I chose something wrong, because normally this this should be lead us to all other events that we might have in the event viewer and that are strictly related to this specific authentication attempt. However, based on the fact that it's taking so long, I think that it goes through all the events in this event log right now, and it would be most probably fail. Let's once again event 516, and maybe I copied something wrong. Let's try to do it again. So copy, and let's go back and find and paste this again and find next. In this case, it is found. And in order to see exactly what type of device this was, we have simply only to look for a 403 event ID that contains also this specific activity ID. So I will simply find next until I get to this 403 event. And then I can open this 403 event, and on this 403 event I would see again, for example, this type of device, which in my case it was still the same Lumia 950. And as I told you, I had this specific case also in support when I was still working in support, where, for example, I had a customer that he at some point, I don't know exactly why, he used to try to log into Office 365 from an Android smartphone that was basically the smartphone of his wife or something like that. And however, of course, it was only for a test, but that device kept an old credential, and at a certain point that specific user started to get really locked out from Office 365 very, very often. So this is, in that specific case, how we exactly found out what device was causing this exact behavior, because the customer didn't know exactly what device could cause this type of problem. So this is exactly how you can track down exact IP addresses of devices that try to use Office 365 services, and also how can you check exactly what type of device it was that for example locked out a certain account. And now I know we're already a little bit late, but I would still like to go also into MFA, which is a very, very interesting thing. I know you all may know exactly how MFA is supposed to work in Azure Active Directory and so on, but what I wanted to show you today is a new feature that was released in production somewhere in August, and that allows us, let's say, to define exactly that only for certain applications we should enforce multi-factor authentication, and for other applications not. So basically this changes a little bit the approach on how we should implement this type of security feature into a company, because until now we simply enabled it directly on Azure AD, and maybe we were able to define exactly that, okay, only this type of users should go through this process, and all the others users not. But however, now in a SaaS world, we very often see cases when customers come to us and say, okay, but I have, for example, developed an in-house app that connects to the Office 365 REST APIs, and we use impersonation to do that, and in order for this application to be successful, we need to skip this type of MFA. And this new feature allows us basically to define exactly for each application if we should use MFA or not. And in order for this to work properly, we have to disable MFA at Azure AD level, and we have to enable it for each SES application that we want to use MFA. And this is, for example, a list of applications that I have in my Azure AD right now. And let's say, for example, that I would really want that I would enforce MFA only for OneDrive. So I will simply enter into this application, click on Configure here, and a few seconds later, you can see that we have here this type of feature that is new and that we can set on. And we can also here try to apply this type of rule to all users or to some groups or to, let's say, to define some exceptions and so on. But I will let here all users. And then we can also check here exactly what we want to do. And in this case, we want to require MFA, maybe when not at work. Or no, let's require it like this because it would be easier for me to show you directly how it works then. And then we have simply to click here on save, and basically everything here is set up. And let us wait until this type of information is saved. Okay, it's saved. And I already opened an Internet Explorer in private session, and let's try to log into portaloffice.com right now, and I would use in this case a user that is not federated. Okay. Default on Microsoft user, and I will have to provide my password, of course. And you can see that I can log into Office 365 without being prompted for MFA. And for example, from here I can go on mail, and you can see that I'm redirected to my Exchange Online inbox without being prompted from MFA, because I enabled MFA only for OneDrive for Business. So what happens here if I go now on OneDrive for Business? And if I go on OneDrive, what it would happen normally is that I would have to, okay, something, I think we still have to wait a few seconds until this changes. Okay, let's try to close this session. Let's review this again. We want to have on, we have to all users and require multi-factor authentication, and only for this application, so everything should be fine from this point of view. So let's try again. Let's try a new in private session. Portal.office.com, and we should now log in once again. And my password, and we're good to go for now. And let's try to access OneDrive right now. So if I go to OneDrive, I'm still redirected to OneDrive. Okay, I really don't know exactly why this is not working right now. Let's do this also with Exchange Online first, because when I tested it, it worked. Okay, let's go back and let's also do it for Exchange Online. We should go to the application, configure, and we should wait a few seconds. Enable access rules on. We want to have this apply to all users, and we want to require multi-factor authentication, and then save. And let's try once again. Okay, my username, my password, and now we should be able to log in. Sorry, that didn't work. Okay. Seems that I was redirected to a wrong. Okay, I was redirected to my personal account. Okay. This is really strange right now. Let's do it once again. Maybe we have something wrong with our portals right now. Okay, now it should be okay. And let's go to mail. And right now, as you can see, I am prompted for, so I will receive right now an SMS here with a code, and then using this code, I would be able to log in also to Exchange Online. Just waiting a few seconds for the code to be here, and my code arrived right now, and it should be 215309 and sign in. And in this case, I don't know exactly why it didn't work for OneDrive. It normally works, but as you can see for Exchange Online, right when I wanted to access my Exchange Online inbox, I was asked then to provide also the second factor of authentication. And this is really important, because this is a new way that you can enable this type of security features in organizations that use several SaaS apps that reside on Azure AD for authentication. Good. Let's then go back to the presentation here, and just in order to wrap up everything. Okay. Now I think my Skype window is frozen right now. Hopefully it will go back to the presentation. Okay. Yes. And yes, I just want to wrap this webcast up. As you may know, we still have 2 sessions left in September from this Office 365 Lab series. On this slide, you may find also the information about these coming webcasts, also together with the registration. Sorry, there is only one webcast list, the last one, Office 365 Exchange Online Compliance Features. If you want to stay in touch with us, we have a blog on TechNet. We have also an account on Twitter, and very important, most of the webcasts that we have delivered in this Office 365 Lab series in September will be also uploaded to this YouTube channel. All the presenters that, or all of you that attended this webcast will also receive a follow-up email from my side with a recording from this webcast and all the information that we used during this short, let's say, training today. And okay. And yeah, this is pretty much it. I would like to thank you very much for being part of this webcast. I hope you were able to see some cool things, and I hope that you would be able then afterwards already to know better how to deal with problems. For example, when you have users that complain that are not able to log into Office 365 and you're using ADFS, we kindly also wait for your feedback. So if you have anything to say to us, you may get in contact with us using the channels that I presented briefly on the previous slide. And yeah, please also let us know if there are some interesting things that you would like to see in such a short 1 hour presentations in the future. And until then, I really wish you a very pleasant day and hope to see you all also in the webcast on Thursday. Thank you very much once again, and have a nice day. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.